Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a story that might hit close to home for many of us. A story of hitting rock bottom and finding the strength to climb back up. Imagine this. The rain is pouring, the streets are empty, and there's a chill in the air that cuts right through you. In the middle of it all, a young man lies on the ground. His hands are shaking, his clothes are torn, and his eyes, they're just full of pain. He's not moving, just staring up at the sky, letting the rain mix with his tears. He's lost everything, his big dream, his friends, his hope, everything. Just a while ago, people used to cheer for him. They'd say he was destined for greatness, born to win. But now, those same people look at him with pity, or even worse, with laughter. He's done, they'd whisper. He'll never rise again. What they didn't see was the countless nights he stayed up, grinding away while everyone else was asleep. They didn't care about the effort, only the outcome, and the outcome? Failure. As he lay there, memories flashed through his mind like a broken film reel. He saw himself on stage, confident, smiling, full of dreams. He remembered how truly he believed he would make everyone proud. But now, that belief felt like a cruel joke. He whispered to himself, almost silently, "Why did this happen to me?" No answer came, just the rumble of thunder. People walked by, some ignoring him, some pointing and laughing. He closed his eyes. For a moment, just a fleeting moment, he thought of giving up, to end it all, to stop feeling this excruciating pain. But then, something inside him stirred. A tiny voice, almost too weak to hear, whispered, "Not like this." It was faint, almost silent, but it was there. Slowly, he pushed himself up. His body felt heavy. His heart felt shattered. He looked down, seeing his reflection in a puddle, a tired, defeated face, etched with scars. Yet deep within those eyes there was a spark, a tiny, stubborn spark that refused to die out. He didn't know where it came from, but it was there, flickering. He thought about the people who had walked away, the ones who had told him he was nothing. Every dismissive word, every insult echoed in his head. And then, something incredible happened. That crushing pain, that deep hurt ignited into a fire. He clenched his fists, and this time he whispered louder, with newfound conviction, "I'm not done." The rain was still falling, but he stood up, slowly, deliberately. His legs were shaking, but he didn't care. He looked around. That same street, which had felt so dark and unforgiving just moments before, now looked like the starting line of something new. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, he took a deep, deliberate breath. And he said to himself, not to the world but to himself, "I will not be defeated." It wasn't a roar. It wasn't meant for anyone else to hear. It was a promise, a quiet but incredibly powerful vow. He started walking, one step at a time. No plan, no money, no obvious support, just that burning voice in his chest, urging him forward. Keep going. Maybe he was broken. Maybe he was alone. But one thing was absolutely certain. He was not finished, because true defeat doesn't come when you fall down. It comes when you decide to stop trying to rise. And in that rainy street, that young man had just decided to rise again. This story is a powerful reminder that no matter how deep the fall, no matter how loud the doubts, there's always a spark within us waiting to reignite. If you've ever felt like giving up, remember this. Your story isn't over yet. The greatest comebacks are often written after the hardest falls. The night was quiet now. The rain had stopped, but his mind was still storming with thoughts. As he walked alone through the empty streets, old memories began to come back. Memories of a time when everything in his life made sense, when he had a purpose, and when he believed the world was his to conquer. His name was Ryan. A few years ago, Ryan was not a man lost in the shadows. He was a dreamer, strong, full of energy, full of fire. He wanted to make something great out of his life. He remembered the first day he made a promise to himself. "I will be someone people remember." And he worked relentlessly for it. Every morning, he woke up before the sun. Every night he went to sleep long after everyone else. While others were partying, he was practicing. While others were resting, he was improving. He didn't come from a rich family. He didn't have special connections or an easy path paved with luck. All he had was his unshakable belief, the belief that pure effort can change your destiny. And for a while, it really seemed like he was right. People started to notice him. His name was being spoken in schools, on the streets, even buzzing on social media. His friends cheered for him, his teachers praised him, and his parents looked at him with eyes full of pride. Success felt so close. He could almost touch it. But life, as it often does, had other plans. One mistake, one wrong choice, and everything began to shatter. He trusted the wrong people. He believed in fake promises. The same friends who once clapped for him started to turn away. The same people who praised him now whispered behind his back. One by one, everything he had built with his own two hands started to fall apart. His projects failed. His confidence cracked. His heart started to sink under the immense weight of disappointment. He tried to fight back, to fix things. But every time he managed to stand up, another failure pushed him right back down. It was like the universe had decided to test just how much pain one man could take. Soon the laughter of others became louder than his own thoughts. People started calling him unlucky, lazy, a failure. And slowly, tragically, he started to believe them. He stopped waking up early. He stopped working hard. The dream that once kept him alive began to fade like smoke in the wind. Ryan began to hide from the world. He avoided people. He avoided mirrors. He avoided hope. His own room became his prison. Some nights he would just stare at the ceiling for hours, wondering where it all went so wrong. And every time he asked himself why, the answer only brought more pain. But even in that suffocating darkness, there was something he couldn't kill. His heart still beat with a quiet, persistent question. What if this isn't the end? He didn't have the answer yet. But deep down, a small, resilient part of him still believed that his story wasn't over. Because dreams don't really die. They just sleep, waiting for the moment we find the courage to wake them up again. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months. Ryan's life had become a routine of silence. He would wake up, stare at the same ceiling, and wonder why he should even try again. The world had moved on without him. People he once called friends were now strangers. He stopped checking his phone because every message reminded him of what he had lost. He felt like a ghost in his own life, alive but not really living. One cold night, Ryan went out for a walk. The city was quiet, the streetlights glowing softly on the wet roads. He didn't know where he was going. He just wanted to escape the noise inside his head. As he walked, he passed by a small park. There he saw a little boy trying to learn how to ride a bicycle. The boy kept falling again and again. His knees were bruised, his hands were dirty, but he didn't stop. Each time he fell, he stood up, wiped his tears, and tried again. Ryan stood there watching, almost frozen. He felt something strange inside him, something he hadn't felt in a long time. After the boy fell one more time, his mother ran to him and said, "It's okay, you can rest." But the boy shook his head and said, "No, Mom, I'll ride this bike today, even if I fall 100 times. Those words hit Ryan like lightning. He stood still for a long moment, replaying them in his mind. I'll ride this bike today, even if I fall 100 times. Something inside him shifted. That small boy fighting with all his heart reminded Ryan of himself, the old version of him who never gave up. He realized how far he had drifted from that person. He whispered to himself, "When did I stop trying?" For the first time in months, Ryan felt his heart beat faster, not from pain, but from fire. The spark he thought was gone had returned. He rushed home that night, sat at his old desk, and opened a notebook he hadn't touched in years. It was filled with his goals, plans, and dreams, the same ones he had once promised to achieve. The pages were dusty, but the words were still alive. As he flipped through them, a tear rolled down his cheek. He smiled and said softly, "I'm not done yet." From that night onward, something changed. He didn't make a big announcement, he didn't post on social media. He just started, Quietly, he woke up early again, started training, reading, and planning. Every small step felt heavy, but he took it anyway. The pain was still there, but now it had a purpose. He failed again, many times. But this time, he didn't stop. Every fall reminded him of that little boy in the park. Ryan began to talk less and do more. He didn't care what people thought anymore. He was no longer chasing approval. He was chasing his comeback. And for the first time in a long while, when he looked in the mirror, he didn't see a loser. He saw a fighter. Because sometimes it doesn't take a big miracle to change a life, just one small spark. And Ryan had found his. And finding your inner strength when the world feels like it's against you. This is the journey of Ryan, and trust me, it's going to resonate. Imagine this. The sun hasn't even thought about rising yet. It's cold, it's dark, and Ryan is standing in front of his mirror. His eyes? Tired. But there's a flicker there, a spark of determination. He ties his shoes, grabs his old backpack, and whispers those powerful words. Let's begin again. Months had passed since he last chased his dream, and now everything felt tougher. His body was weak, his mind filled with fear. Yet he didn't stop. He knew that if he could just take one step forward, he could rediscover that strength he once had. So his days started early. Training, reading, working, learning, whatever it took to rebuild himself. But soon he faced the hard truth. Comebacks are brutal. The harder he tried, the more life seemed to test him. Some days his plans just fell apart. Other days his body ached so much he could barely move. Old friends who once cheered him on now laughed behind his back. He's still trying, they'd scoff. Doesn't he get it's over? Even strangers online threw hurtful comments his way. Ryan heard it all, but he said nothing. He'd learned that silence could be a more powerful answer than any argument. He worked in silence. He ate in silence. He struggled in silence. Because deep down he knew that one day his success would be the loudest noise of all. Still, there were those moments when the pain was just too much. Late at night, when the whole world was asleep, Ryan would sit alone battling his own thoughts. His biggest enemy wasn't out there. It was the voice inside his head whispering, "You can't do it again." But he refused to listen. Every single time that negative voice spoke up, he pushed harder. He remembered the little boy at the park saying, "Even if I fall 100 times." Ryan wrote those exact words on a piece of paper and pinned it to his wall. Every morning before starting his day, he'd look at it. Slowly, his unwavering discipline became his greatest strength. He started waking up even earlier, training longer, focusing deeper. He failed again, yes, but this time he didn't call it failure. He called it progress. One evening, after an exhausting day, Ryan was walking home, tired, sweaty, hungry. He passed a group at a cafe, laughing loudly, talking about how easy life was and how luck was everything. Ryan smiled quietly. He knew a secret they didn't. Luck might kickstart your story, but discipline? Discipline writes the ending. The road was lonely, though. Nobody cheered for him. Nobody really believed in him. But in that silence, he found a profound peace. Because now he wasn't doing it for attention or validation. He was doing it purely for himself. One night, as he was writing down his goals again, Ryan paused. He looked at his reflection in the window and softly said, "They tried to break me, but all they did was make me stronger." His comeback wasn't complete yet, but it had definitely begun. The very pain that once shattered him was now shaping him into someone new, someone stronger. He finally understood something truly powerful. You can control how many times life knocks you down, but you can always, always control how many times you rise. And Ryan had made his decision. He would rise every single time. What an incredible journey, right? It just goes to show that true strength comes from within. Today we're diving deep into a story that I think many of us can relate to. A story about resilience, not just against external challenges, but against the toughest opponent of all, our own minds. Meet Ryan. You might remember him from earlier stories, pushing himself, working tirelessly. From the outside, it looked like he was absolutely crushing it again, right? Every morning he trained, he worked, he pushed himself to the very limit. He was winning. Or so it seemed. But here's the thing about battles. Sometimes the loudest ones are happening silently, deep inside. For Ryan, a silent storm was still raging. No one else could see it, but he was fighting a new kind of enemy, his own mind. Some nights, after hours of hard work, he'd sit alone and feel this strange, unexplainable emptiness. He had all these goals, all these plans, everything he was working towards. But deep down, a tiny voice would whisper, "What if it's all for nothing?" That voice? That was dangerous. It was the same one that had once told him to just give up. The truth was, Ryan was tired. Not just physically exhausted, but emotionally drained. The pressure to rise again, to prove himself, it was incredibly heavy. Every single step forward came with fear. Fear of failing again. Fear of being laughed at again. Fear that he'd just never be enough. He tried to ignore it, to push it away, but that voice, it just kept getting louder and louder. Then one night he found himself sitting in the dark, just staring at the floor. He felt his chest tighten. His heart started beating faster. It was like his own thoughts were physically attacking him. He whispered, almost to himself, "Why am I feeling like this? I'm doing everything right. So why does it still hurt?" Tears welled up in his eyes. For the first time in a long, long while, he just let them fall. But as he cried, something shifted. He realized something profound. The pain he felt, it wasn't his enemy after all. It was actually a reminder that he still cared. That deep down, underneath all that exhaustion and fear, he still wanted to win. He took a deep, shuddering breath and said softly, "Maybe pain isn't trying to break me. Maybe it's trying to teach me." That night, Ryan made a decision. He decided he would stop running from his pain and instead, he would start learning from it. The very next morning, he woke up before sunrise again, just like always. But this time, he didn't try to avoid his thoughts. He faced them. Every fear, every doubt, every perceived weakness. He started asking himself tough questions. What am I really afraid of? Why do I keep doubting myself? And slowly, patiently, answers began to appear. He had this incredible realization. His real enemy was never failure itself. It was his own fear of failing again. He had been carrying that fear around like a heavy, suffocating chain. So Ryan decided to break it. He started journaling his thoughts every single day, writing down his fears, his mistakes, the lessons he was learning. Each page he filled felt a little lighter, each word more honest, more real. The more he wrote, the more he understood himself, his motivations, his struggles. He began to see pain differently. It wasn't there to stop him. It was there to shape him, to forge him into something stronger. One day during training, he pushed himself harder than ever before. His muscles burned, his breath was short, but he didn't stop. He whispered to himself as he ran, "This pain is not my punishment. It's my preparation." Those words, that mantra, became his guiding light. He repeated them every day, every single time things got hard. He no longer avoided loneliness. He embraced it, using that quiet time for reflection. He no longer feared the struggle. He trusted it, knowing it was part of his growth. Because he knew deep in his bones that every scar was proof that he had survived what was meant to destroy him. And for the first time, Ryan felt something incredibly powerful, a sense of peace. Not because everything was suddenly perfect, but because he had learned to fight and win against his own mind. He was no longer just training his body, he was training his soul. What an incredible transformation, right? It reminds us that our greatest battles are often fought within. For a long time, the world was silent for Ryan. But slowly, something was changing. He had been working in the shadows. No posts, no pictures, no desperate pleas for attention. Just pure, unadulterated discipline. Every single morning, he trained harder, focused longer, and practiced patience when it felt like the world wasn't moving an inch. He had reached a point where he didn't need to prove anything to anyone anymore. His only goal was to become the absolute best version of himself. And then, one day, people started to notice. It began with small whispers. Someone who once laughed at him saw his work again and asked, "Wait, he's back?" Another person commented, "He's still doing this, after everything that happened?" But this time Ryan didn't care. He didn't reply. He didn't engage. He knew that real warriors fight their battles in silence and let their results make the noise. Soon enough, his progress became undeniable. His confidence, once shattered, returned with a quiet strength. His skills grew sharper and his focus became unbreakable. The same people who once doubted him now watched in silence. The same ones who walked away now observed from a distance. Ryan didn't smile or celebrate. He just kept moving forward, calm, focused, and utterly unstoppable. One morning, while out on his run, a profound realization hit him. He was no longer chasing success. He was chasing growth. He wasn't trying to prove anyone wrong anymore. He was dedicated to proving himself right. That simple thought filled his heart with a deep sense of pride. He whispered to himself as he ran, "I don't need to be seen. I just need to become." His daily routine became his sacred temple. The pain he endured became his greatest teacher. And every single day he sharpened his mind like a warrior sharpens a sword. Stronger, steadier, quieter. People started approaching him asking, "How did you do it? How did you come back after losing everything?" Ryan would just offer a calm smile and say, "I stopped trying to impress people and started trying to improve myself." That one line resonated deeply with everyone who heard it. It was simple, yet so powerful. As the months turned into a year, Ryan's story began to spread. Not because he talked about it, but because he lived it, day in and day out. He was invited to speak at a local event. Standing on stage for the first time in years, he looked out at a crowd full of faces. Some were strangers, some were old friends, and yes, some were the very people who had once given up on him. He looked completely at ease. The stage lights were bright, but his voice was steady as he began. "I was once broken. I fell so hard that I truly thought I would never stand up again. But here's the truth I learned. Life didn't break me. It trained me." The entire room went silent. Every eye was locked on him. He continued, his voice filled with conviction. "Pain taught me more than comfort ever could. Silence taught me more than applause ever did. And failure taught me more than success ever will." Those words weren't rehearsed. They came directly from his heart, raw, real, and authentic. When he finished, the entire room erupted, rising to their feet in applause. But Ryan didn't see it as a victory lap. He saw it as a powerful reminder, a reminder that he was never truly defeated in the first place. He walked off the stage with a quiet, knowing smile. He knew there was still a long road ahead. But now, nothing could stop him. Not failure, not fear, and certainly not the opinions of other people. Because he was no longer just a dreamer. He was a warrior, calm, focused, and ready for whatever came next. The city lights glowed below him, the wind brushing softly against his face. He looked up at the stars and smiled. It had been a long journey, from the boy who fell to the man who refused to stay down. He had fought battles the world would never see, battles not with people, but with pain, fear, and doubt. And now, for the first time, he felt truly free. He thought about everything he had gone through, the failure, the loneliness, the rejection, the sleepless nights. There was a time when he used to curse those days. But tonight, he was thankful for them. Because without that pain, he would have never found his power. Ryan whispered softly, "Maybe life never wanted to defeat me. Maybe it wanted to prepare me." He finally understood something that took him years to learn. Victory was never about trophies, applause, or fame. True victory was peace inside your heart. It was waking up every day knowing you gave your best no matter how hard it got. He smiled again as he remembered the faces of people who once told him he wouldn't make it. He didn't feel anger anymore. He felt gratitude, because their doubt had become his drive. He closed his eyes and whispered, "Thank you for not believing in me. You made me stronger." As the wind blew harder, Ryan stood up and spread his arms wide, feeling the cold air on his skin. he said softly. I was never fighting the world. I was fighting my own weakness. And I won. Those words echoed in his heart like a drumbeat, slow, steady, powerful. He didn't need to prove anything to anyone anymore. He had learned that success without peace is empty, but peace after pain, that is a real victory. The next morning, Ryan went back to his routine. No big celebrations, no parties, no noise, just focus. Because he knew life would still test him again, but this time, he was ready. He had built a new version of himself, one that could bend, but never break. He had learned that storms don't destroy strong trees. They make their roots deeper, and Ryan's roots were now unshakable. Weeks later, a young man came to him after one of his talks and said, "Sir, I've failed so many times. I don't think I can rise again." Ryan smiled gently and replied, "Then don't rise for the world. Rise for yourself. Because once you win the battle inside you, the world can't defeat you anymore." The young man nodded, tears in his eyes. Ryan placed a hand on his shoulder and said, "Remember, life will push you down again and again, but you lose only when you stop standing back up." As the boy walked away with new hope, Ryan turned and looked at the sunset. The golden light touched his face and he felt peace fill his heart. He had started as a dreamer, he had fallen as a failure, but he rose as a warrior, and now he walked into the future, not with fear, but with faith. Because once you decide that you will not be defeated, the world has no power to stop you anymore. If this story resonated with you, let us know in the comments below. What battles are you fighting? Remember, you are stronger than you think. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe for more content that inspires and empowers. See you in the next one.